If you think that this scene ruined Star Wars, then you are wrong. This myth has plagued the Star Wars fandom for decades now. The idea that the introduction of midi-chlorians somehow ruins the mysticism of Star Wars has to be the worst case of the Mandela effect in a fandom ever. No, it's worse than that. This is media illiteracy on a scale hitherto undreamt of. For those of you who don't spend your days interacting with the wretched hive of scum and villainy that is the Star Wars fandom, I'm referring to a scene in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which came out 2 decades ago and some people are still very mad about. In this scene, young Anakin Skywalker asks his Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn a question about the Force.
I've been wondering, what are midi-chlorians?
It was at this moment when millions of Star Wars fans cried out in terror and had their childhood suddenly ruined.
Midi-chlorians are a microscopic life form that resides within all living cells.
So then George Lucas completely and utterly finally ruined Star Wars forever by having Qui-Gon explain that the Force...
Life forms living together for mutual advantage. Without the midi-chlorians, life could not exist, and we would have no knowledge of the Force.
He's already dead!
Midi-chlorians do not ruin the mysticism of Star Wars. In fact, when this film came out, the existence of midi-chlorians wasn't even new information. The original trilogy establishes that all living things are connected to the Force.
It's an energy field created by all living things.
So if all living things are connected to the Force, that implies that there must be a biological trait shared by all living things that is not found in your R2 unit. Sorry, R2. All living creatures are connected to the Force. Any living creature can use the Force, but some people have a natural ability. Some people are more inclined, more connected to the Force than others, and that biological trait can also be genetic. One of the reasons Luke is so strong with the Force is because of his father. The Emperor wants Luke because he has the potential to become just as powerful as Anakin Skywalker, simply because he is Anakin's son.
The Force is strong with him. The son of Skywalker must not become a Jedi.
When Luke realizes that Leia is his sister, he tells her to learn to use the Force because she has the same power that he has.
The Force is strong in my family. My father has it. I have it. My sister has it.
So, to recap, there is a biological trait that is inherent to all living things. This trait can be more present in some individuals than in others, and this trait can be passed on from father to child. So to return to that scene in The Phantom Menace again, Qui-Gon here is simply giving a name to a concept that was alluded to all throughout the original trilogy. To be clear, midi-chlorians are not the Force. They are the biological conduit through which living creatures commune with the Force.
He could use the Force to influence the midi-chlorians.
The Force itself is just as mystical and intangible as it was in the original trilogy. The introduction of midi-chlorians literally does not change anything. The only reason it's even mentioned in the film is because it explains why Anakin is a subject of contention among the Jedi. His midi-chlorian count indicates his potential as a Force user.
Even Master Yoda doesn't have a midi-chlorian count that high.
He has a natural ability, but there is no explanation as to why he has a natural ability. Even his birth is a mystery. There was no father. The Force just created him, but the Jedi aren't even sure why he was created. Qui-Gon was willing to break the rules of the Jedi to train Anakin because he believed that his birth was the will of the Force. But the other Jedi aren't so convinced. They think that Anakin is too dangerous to be trained as a Jedi. This debate stems from a disagreement over how to determine the will of the Force. Even the Jedi don't fully understand the Force. Midi-chlorians don't explain what the Force is, but they do explain a little bit about how the Force works. Our biology is a complex ecosystem of all kinds of microorganisms, symbiotic organisms that we depend on to live. All life is interconnected, dependent on each other, even on a microscopic scale, kind of like the Force. The metaphysical and the scientific are not mutually exclusive. Star Wars has always been about challenging and expanding our understanding of the universe and how it works. This scene isn't even the most egregious example of this. It's just one short, simple clarification of a concept that has been core to Star Wars since the very beginning. You are not a true fan just because you didn't like how this scene challenged your understanding of what these films were about. You are not a true fan just because this scene made you angry, because you gave in to hate, because you let your hatred blind you to what Star Wars was truly about. Midi-chlorians did not ruin Star Wars. You just never understood Star Wars in the first place.